Was I drinking, looking for the next thing? I couldn't really settle down. Always on the run, I didn't want to slow down. But baby, then you came around. Yeah, you came around. No, I won't ever let you down. I promise you that I hold on. I know that it gets tough sometimes, so I'm here to remind you, love. The sun will shine on you wherever you go, wherever you go. And when it gets dark, stay strong. You're never alone. You're never alone. The sun will shine. The sun will shine. Yeah. Now I cannot picture my life being without you. You're the center of my life. I know we can't predict the future, but baby, I won't lose you. You know that I will stick around.
Hey guys, happy Sunday, or rather happy whatever day it is when you are watching this. For me, it's a very happy Sunday because for the first time in what genuinely feels like months, I woke up today feeling genuinely well rested and ready to get up when the alarm went off. And that is because the clocks went back yesterday, which meant we got an extra hour in bed, and I felt like that extra hour that you just wouldn't normally have has made all the difference, and I feel incredible. So a happy Sunday, or whatever day it is when you are watching this, and welcome to another vlog. I have quite a calm, cozy Sunday ahead of me, and I'm going to be spending most of the day with my mum and my sister. We're going to IKEA, which I'm very excited about because I haven't been to IKEA in ages, and my mum said they've got the Christmas shop open, so I'm really excited to maybe get some new Christmas bits. And I also need to find a couple of bits just generally for the house. We desperately need a new lamp for the living room because now that it's getting darker so much earlier, we're really noticing that it is like too bright to have the big light on, and it doesn't feel cozy when you have the big light on, but it's too dark to have no light at all, so a lamp is definitely necessary. And we also have decided that we really want to start like making our rooms a little bit more put together. I feel like when we moved into our first house in York, we kind of focused on getting the crucial bits of furniture and just like, you know, the things that you actually need to live in a house in, but we never really got like too many furnishings or like made the house our own. And now that we've moved into a newer house earlier this year, we obviously had most of the furniture already, so that was already ticked off, but we still haven't like made the rooms complete in my opinion. So I feel like we want to start adding little bits of maybe some art here and there just to like bring the rooms together. So that is kind of what's on my agenda, as well as hopefully a couple of coffee stops with my mum and my sister. But to kind of start off Sunday on a calm and cozy note, I decided to get up feeling very refreshed after my extra hours of sleep, and then had a cup of coffee, and I also picked out two brand new books to read this weekend. They're both books that I just picked up completely randomly. They've kind of been on my radar as wanting to read for a while, and it turns out that I could not have picked two better books because they both seem perfectly suited for this time of year. So without even realising it, the first pages of both books have references to autumn. So the books, in case you can't see, are Anne of the Island by L.M. Montgomery, which is the third book in the Anne of Green Gables series, and the first one that I haven't read yet. So the first two, Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea, I have read multiple times. And then there is also, yeah, those are the first two books. Just had to check the box set and make sure I wasn't missing out on anything. So I've read those two a good couple of times now, but I've never made it to the next book in the series, so this is that one. And then I also picked up Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, which is a very, very short book. I think it's probably classed as a novella rather than a novel. It's only 110 pages long altogether, so very short, but one that I've heard very good things about. I think it's won a lot of awards and things like that, so it's one that I'm excited about and have been meaning to read for quite a while. But I think I knew from reading the blurb that it was set towards the winter months, so I think consciously when I had bought it I knew that I was going to leave it on the shelf for a few months, but now it finally seems like the perfect time to pick it up. Now, because both of these books are completely new to me, I decided to read a chapter of both of them this morning just to kind of get a gist of what they were all about, and I also wanted to share the autumnal, oh dear, dropping a book on the floor, not what we wanted to do. I wanted to share the autumnal references from the start of each book. So starting with Anne of the Island, which, I mean, I could pick any number of pages from L.M. Montgomery's books and just find all sorts of incredible, there goes the book that I was going to try not to drop, but all sorts of incredible like nature references, but this one seems particularly autumnal. So it starts with "Harvest is ended and summer is gone," quoted Anne Shirley, gazing across the shorn fields dreamily. She and Diana Barry had been picking apples in the Green Gables orchard, but were now resting from their labours in the sunny corner, where airy fleets of thistledown drifted by on wings of a wind that was still summer sweet with the incense of ferns in the haunted wood. But everything in the landscape around them spoke of autumn. The sea was roaring hollowly in the distance, the fields were bare and sere with scarfed goldenrod, the brook valley below Green Gables overflowed with asters of ethereal purple, and the lake of shining waters was blue. Blue, blue, not the changeful blue of spring, nor the pale azure of summer, but a clear, steadfast, serene blue, as if the water were past all moods and tenses of emotion, and had settled down to a tranquillity unbroken by fickle dreams. Now, I guess description of that richness maybe isn't for everyone, and I know it's something that definitely features more in children's books and children's classics rather than adult books, which I guess focus a little bit less on description and more on doing, but there is just something so encapsulating about the way L.M. Montgomery writes about nature that I absolutely adore. And it might not be the most like sophisticated way to describe things, because it is, you know, maybe over explanatory and just like goes a little bit too far in description that you wouldn't see in adult books. But I, as someone who loves autumn and also who just loves appreciating nature in general, never fail to enjoy these descriptions, and the fact that this one started with such a vivid description of the change from summer into autumn just felt so wonderful and fitting for this time of year, because like I mentioned in last week's vlog, we really did have to wait for autumn to arrive this year, and it felt like it just came in a flourish, and I feel like we are still in that transitionary period right now where summer has just gone and we're really like embracing autumn. So I loved that, and I can't wait to read more of this book, because like I say, I have read the first couple of books in this series many a time and absolutely adore them, but I haven't read this one yet, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Now, picking up small things like these from the floor, this book also started unexpectedly with an autumn description, because the blurb of this book actually says that it is set in the weeks leading up to Christmas, so I expected it to be maybe more in December, but it does a very quick description of the transition through autumn, which I personally really liked. In October there were yellow trees, then the clocks went back the hour and the long November winds came in and blew and stripped the trees bare. In the town of New Ross, chimneys threw out smoke which fell away and drifted off in hairy drawn-out strings before dispersing along the quays, and soon the river Barrow, dark as stout, swelled up with rain. The people, for the most part, unhappily endured the weather, which I feel like is interesting because we have two descriptions of the arrival of autumn, but one which is just like very reverent and the other which kind of acknowledges but also references that people are not so happy about it. So it's kind of ironic that we have very, I guess, two sides of the same coin, but I personally enjoyed both and feel like there is validity in both descriptions. So I really did like that. Now, whereas Anne of Green Gables, or Anne of the Island as this one turns out to be, is a very, I guess, easy to follow story, because the premise is essentially that we're just following Anne throughout her life and all of the adventures that she goes upon, so it's really easy to jump into. Small things like these is, I think, going to be a little bit more literary and also maybe a little bit more winding and without such a coherent plot, because the blurb says During the weeks leading up to Christmas, Bill Furlong, a coal and timber merchant, faces his busiest season. As he goes around the houses making deliveries, he feels the past rising up to meet him and encounters the complicit silences of a small community controlled by the church. So what we've had to begin with is the description of Bill Furlong and his childhood, where he was born to a single mother who was working as a servant in a bigger house, and most young mothers in Ireland at this time would have just been sort of cast out and I guess exiled essentially from society, would not have been treated very kindly to be a young single mother who's unmarried. But in this case, the woman who she worked for, the woman who owns the big house, actually decided to keep Furlong's mother on and sort of basically supported her as she raised him. So he was kind of a much lower social class, but ended up with some of the benefits of being raised in a higher class household, and I felt like that was a really nice way to start introduction into this story, because it gives you a little bit of context for what his life was like. And now he is married with, I think it said 5 of his own daughters, and his focus really is just on being a provider for his wife and children and trying to make sure that his daughters get the best education they can. So that's really all the context I have so far, and I'm on page 15 of this book, but very excited to do some more reading of both books later on today. But for now, it is time, as always, because I'm running late, to rush out of the door to go and meet my mum and my sister, and then head to IKEA for breakfast and some shopping.
I would be up waiting for you if you had to leave. I would wait a lifetime if you were at sea. I just wanna say that I feel that our love is real. Maybe we should hurry up and seal the deal.
Well, I'd call that a fairly successful trip to IKEA. I do feel like it's the sort of place that you really have to psych yourself up to go, because no matter what time of day, what time of year, it is always so busy. And so it is definitely not the kind of shop you want to go to unless you are 100% certain about what you're looking for, and nothing can parallel the frustration you feel if you go with a clear idea and don't manage to find what you're looking for. So I didn't find everything that I was hoping for, but I did manage to pick up a fair few bits while we were there. So first of all, the most important thing on the list was a new lamp, which I got for the living room, so I was very happy to tick that one off the list. I was also hoping for a side table, which I didn't find, and I also didn't find any cute art pieces. I'm thinking it may have to be an Etsy job and find some cute prints. Not 100% sure what I'm looking for, which I feel like makes online shopping for art quite difficult, which is why I was hoping to see something to inspire me, but that one has gone on the back burner, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find something to brighten up our walls soon. But aside from that, I also found some new bedding, which I'm very excited about. I've gone for this greeny, almost like a mistletoe, or maybe like an olive leaf type pattern, which is almost like a sage green, very cute. Then I also got this sagey blanket to go on the end of the bed, so I'm about to change the bedding now and put that on, which I think will feel lovely and fresh. Then we also went to Next, and I picked up a throw and a cushion for the living room there as well. And Next had so many beautiful things in their Christmas range. I genuinely wanted to come away with everything. There were some beautiful mistletoe patterns. They also had some really lovely brushed cotton festive bedding that wasn't garish, just really cute and pretty. And then they also had some beautiful gingerbready crockery, mugs, plates, pie dishes, those sorts of things, and they were beautiful. If I was rich, I would have come away with a whole lot more things, but I'm thinking I may go back a couple of times in November and pick up some pieces because they were super cute. But for now, I'm sticking with what I've got, and I feel like it was quite a successful trip. So for now, I'm going to put the bedding on the bed, and then that is basically my Sunday over in the sense of things I actually have to do. So the rest of the evening will just be spent chilling out, and I think I will kickstart the afternoon evening with some more reading. Jay has the fire on in the living room, so it's going to be nice and cosy, and I can't wait to dive into more of Anne on the Island, which is the one that I'm going to be picking up first of my 2 reads for this afternoon.
I just wanna love you right.
literally just 2 seconds ago said to Jay that I wanted to watch Harry Potter tonight, and then he told me that he'd been looking through the TV guide and boom, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is on TV, which happens to be my personal favourite of the Harry Potter films. It's always a struggle to decide and they all have their pros and cons, but for me Chamber of Secrets is just the one that I have such a nostalgic attachment to and watched so many times on repeat when I was younger. So perfect timing. I'm going to start reading more of Anne of the Island and then watch Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in the background and just have a wonderful time. My intention definitely was to split my time between reading Anne of the Island and reading small things like these, but I have to say, as soon as I sat down and started reading Anne of the Island this afternoon, I just couldn't allow myself to put it down because I just feel like these books are so cozy and welcoming, and I feel like it's so easy to get lost in the world of Anne of Green Gables that you just never want to sort of part ways with it, which makes it probably not such a great choice for trying to read directly alongside another book, because this book, as I mentioned, just in the comparison between the two descriptions of autumn, was far more cold and brutal, and that's not to say that I'm not going to enjoy this book because I'm sure that I absolutely am, but this book just feels perfectly fitting for an afternoon and evening spent sat beside the fire, getting cozy and embracing the like nice side of autumn, I guess, rather than the cooler side. And I just am absolutely loving this book. I'm probably a little over halfway into Anne of the Island now, which is page 136 to be precise, and it's just a really lovely story. I feel like this book is the first one where Anne is like a fully fledged adult. So obviously in Anne of Green Gables she is just a child and she's come as an orphan to live on the island and she's sort of like settling in, but she's very much like a troublesome and adventurous child. Then in Anne of Avonlea, that's kind of like the bridge between childhood and adulthood, but in this one she is like a lot more, I guess, confident and self-assured and like settled in herself. So in this one she is out at like another college, so she went and studied to become a teacher and now she's studying to actually get a degree, and so she's kind of like, I guess, taking a different path than the standard like maybe work for a couple of years and then get married situation. So it's really interesting to see how that is all playing out, and I'm just absolutely loving it. And also, to put a cherry on top of the cake, the chapter that I just read, which was called Adjusted Relationships, Anne ends up accidentally adopting a cat, which I personally love, and I feel like any story that I enjoy can only be made better by the addition of a cat. So I'm planning to do a little bit more reading this evening. It is currently 7:10, which is shocking because Sunday evenings always just go so quickly. At 8 p.m. we have the Mexican Grand Prix to watch, so I'm probably going to just read all the way up until when that starts, and then I think I'll be finishing off the evening with the F1 and also with one of the donuts that I picked up from Krispy Kreme earlier. Krispy Kreme now have so many good vegan options, it's actually quite hard to choose, but I'm going to be enjoying, I think, the chocolate custard one, which I'm so surprised is vegan, but very glad that it is, as well as either a cup of tea or a hot chocolate. I guess I'll see what I fancy, but for now, a few more pages of Anne of the Island. only problem with the Mexican Grand Prix is that it started at 8 p.m, which means that I am now up way past my bedtime and very, very much in need of a good night's sleep. But before I head to bed, I did just want to give one final reading update of Anne of the Island. I'm now on page 168 of this book, which means that I have just under 100 pages left to go. And although tomorrow is Monday, so it's a work day, I am hoping that between lunchtime and after work I will actually be able to fit in all of the rest of this book and finish it off tomorrow, because quite frankly I would describe this book as unputdownable. And it's funny to say that because unputdownable is usually a description that I feel like you would give to a twisty, action-filled, suspenseful book where you really don't know what's going to happen and therefore you're desperate to keep reading for the big revelation to take place. And Anne and her books are just not at all like that. They are far slower paced and more meandering, and really if you were to try and describe the plot, all you could kind of say is that it's a book series that follows Anne throughout the ups and downs of her life, which isn't necessarily always that exciting, but for me at least there is just something so inviting about Anne's world and the way that L.M. Montgomery has written it, in the sense that it just feels familiar but with enough of like a sparkle to make it enticing. And I feel like I always get such a sense of positivity from reading Anne's story that it just makes me sort of view my own world with a little bit more positivity, because I feel like Anne's perspective on life kind of rubs off on you as a reader. So I always find her story to be unputdownable, maybe not in the traditional sense, but just in the sense that the stories are so comforting that you open the book and you want to stay in there forever because they're just such lovely stories. So this book for me is unputdownable and I absolutely do want to finish it tomorrow. If the Grand Prix wouldn't have been on this evening, I think I probably would have been able to get through it all, but alas, I think I'll be able to finish it tomorrow and I'm very excited to do so. Now, another classic that I feel like has a similar feeling to me is Little Women, and so I did want to talk about one chapter of this book, which is chapter 20, called Gilbert Speaks. And in this book, without giving away too much detail, we have Anne, I think, at the first point in her life where marriage is a potential reality for her, because like I said, it's the first time we've really seen her sort of within adulthood, and all readers of Anne of Green Gables will know that there is only one person that you could possibly want Anne to end up with, but obviously until this point they've kind of not necessarily seen that, but I feel like we're kind of at a turning point in the story now. And the reason I referenced Little Women alongside Anne of Green Gables is because my favourite adaptation of Little Women is the 2019 movie adaptation with Saoirse Ronan and Timothée Chalamet, and there is one scene where Timothy, as Laurie, professes his love for Jo, Saoirse Ronan, on this hillside, and it's a very dramatic profession of love and not necessarily all that romantic, because it doesn't necessarily go down the way that Laurie had hoped, and it is kind of him saying that he's reached this breaking point where he has to profess this love, and Saoirse, or Jo rather I should say, turning him down and kind of saying that she doesn't want things to change and that she wants them to remain friends. And that is, I would say, probably one of the most iconic scenes of the film and of Little Women, the book in general. It's something that I think everyone knows, and of course everyone sits on a certain side of the fence in terms of who they think Laurie should end up with. And despite the fact that I love Little Women and I love Anne of Green Gables, and I would say that they remind me of each other in the sense of being comforting children's classics, I wouldn't necessarily say they are written in a similar way, but there is a scene in this chapter, chapter 20, which feels almost word for word exactly the same as how that scene plays out between Jo and Laurie, and I absolutely love it because that scene is incredible, and it was just so fun to kind of see that parallel between two classics that I absolutely love. So I now want to look at my copy of Little Women and see how similar the book passages are between those two sections, because obviously I'm reading this here and I know that I'm reading about Anne, but all I can see as I'm reading this section is not Anne, but it's Jo and Laurie, and so I'm interested to see how similarly written they are, because all I can picture is the film adaptation right now. But either way, I feel like I loved that section and I had to tab that, and I'll definitely be comparing the two. But for now, it's a work night, so I desperately need to get to bed, and that brings this cosy, calming and a wonderful Sunday to an end. I hope whatever day it is for you, you've had a wonderful day as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna head to bed now, so I'll see you in the next one.